Are you tired of being awkward all the time, whether at work or around women? Forget pickup lines and corporate politics. What if I told you the difference between being invisible and irresistible comes down to 3 simple behaviors? So, in today's video, we're going to be looking at this simple red carpet interview between Brad Pitt and George Clooney. But this isn't just any interview. We're going to break down 3 powerful charisma techniques they use that you can apply in your life, whether you're trying to get ahead at work or become more magnetic in social situations. These 3 charisma techniques from Brad Pitt and George Clooney are why some men effortlessly attract success, both in the office and the dating scene. And I'll show you exactly how they work. Today, we're breaking down their techniques into 3 practical lessons you can use at your next date, party, or meeting. Lesson number 1, the power of self-deprecating humor.
Some of the last movie stars with a capital M that we have in Hollywood. Yes, I'm gonna blow your head up. Just take it.
Baiting. No, yeah. No, I get it in my face now for that one?
Yeah.
No, I think it's just a different time. It's a different era, you know, where it was all about the studio system before or the networks. Now we have streamers and there's so many more of us getting shots at us and great stories being told. So I think it's just a changing of the guard and we're just seeing more and more talent out there. So it's hard to just necessarily pick a couple of...
No, we just do it with walkers now.
Is there healthy competition, though, between the two of you when you come to a movie together?
No,
not really.
We're too old to be competitive now.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, you know, you're just gumming your.
The first technique is strategic self-deprecation. Notice how they never punch down, they punch up at themselves. Brad jokes about his height, George pokes fun at his age. How can you use this at work? For example, when presenting success, add a humble stumble story. On dates, share an embarrassing moment from your past. At parties, beat others to the punch by pointing out your obvious quirks. But warning, don't overdo it. 1 self-deprecating joke per conversation is plenty. Some examples that you can use: for example, if you get a promotion or some kind of praise at work, you can say, "Honestly, I just kept showing up and bringing the donuts until someone had to promote me." Or, after a successful presentation, you can say, "Well, I practiced this in front of my cat and she was a tough crowd." When receiving some kind of praise, you can always say, "Thanks, though you should have seen my first attempt at this." During a date, if someone, for example, asks you about your job, you can say, "I'm a lawyer, but don't worry, I only sue the bad guys, and occasionally my printer when it stops working." Or about your hobbies, you can say, "I'm learning the guitar, but right now my specialty is making cats run away." Some party examples can be about being late. You can say, "Sorry I'm late, my hair and I were having creative differences." Lesson number 2, the yes and approach.
He's a little miffed that he missed out on the first one with you all. So is there room for Matt in the sequel?
Yeah, he was an actor. He was in the. I was like, it's called the Born Irrelevance or something.
The Born Irrelevance.
I believe that's what it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe.
There's room for him. Always room.
Always room for
Matt.
Could that be a dream?
Watch how these 2 build on each other's jokes instead of just competing. When George says the born irrelevance, Brad adds to the joke. How to use this at work? At work, you can build on your colleagues' ideas instead of dismissing them. On dates, you can add to your date stories instead of one-upping them. At parties, create running jokes by building on others' humors. Some examples of yes and approach can be something like, when someone says this project is challenging, you can say yes, and that's exactly why we're the perfect team for it. Remember when we handled a similar situation? Or when someone says we might miss the deadline, you can say yes, and that gives us a chance to rethink our approach. What if we, and give an example. For example, if you're on a date, let's say your date says, "I'm terrible at mini golf." You can say yes, and that makes 2 of us. We should make a support group. Some examples for parties, someone might say, "This music is reminding me of the 80s." And you can say, "Yes, and speaking of the 80s, wait till you hear my tragic neon phase." Lesson number 3, the spotlight shift.
Talking about you guys are like some of the last movie stars with a capital M that we have in Hollywood. Yes, I'm gonna blow your head up. Just take it.
Baiting.
No, yeah. No, I get it in my face now for that one?
Yeah.
No, I think it's just a different time. It's a different era, you know, where it was all about the studio system before or the networks. Now we have streamers and there's so many more of us getting shots at us and great stories being told. So I think it's just a changing of the guard and we're just seeing more and more talent out there. So it's hard to just necessarily pick a couple of...
No, we just do it with walkers now.
Is there help? And finally, really quick, I did ask Amy if she needed a real life fixer, because she needs a fixer in the movie,
yes,
which one of you two would she call? And she said,
I would call George, but I would ask him to pass the phone to Amal.
Oh, yeah.
By the way,
that's actually
I did that today.
I do it all the time.
yeah.
The most powerful move? Deliberately shifting attention to others. George highlighting Amal's achievements, Brad praising younger actors. How can you use this at work? At work, credit team members specifically in meetings. On dates, ask follow-up questions about your date's interests. At parties, introduce people with their achievements or interesting facts. For example, you can say, actually, Sarah came up with the core concept. Sarah, could you please explain what you were thinking? Or, the project succeeded because Mike stayed late debugging the code. Or you can say something like, I learned this technique from Jamie in accounting. They are brilliant at this. Some examples for during your date, you can say, that's fascinating. What got you interested in this hobby? Or you might say something like, your perspective on this topic is so unique. How did you develop such a unique view? When you're at a party, when you're introducing your friends, you can say something like, hey, have you met my friend John? He's just got back from building schools in Guatemala. Or in group conversations, you can say something like, that reminds me of what Lisa was saying earlier about a certain topic. When someone you notice is really quiet, you can say something like, hey Alex, didn't you have a similar experience with this? A bonus tip is combining these techniques. For example, when someone says nice presentation, you can say thanks, though I definitely stumbled through the intro, self-deprecation. But Sarah here saved it with her amazing data visualization, and you do the spotlight shift. And speaking of data, weren't you working on something similar? The yes and approach. So the ultimate move is combining these three techniques. For example, if someone says nice presentation, you can say thanks, though I definitely stumbled through the intro. That's a little self-deprecation. Then you can say, but Sarah here saved it with her amazing data visualization. You do the spotlight shift. And then you can say, and speaking of data, weren't you working on something similar? To the yes and approach. At a party, you can say something like, I'm basically a professional at awkward first impressions, self-deprecation. But that reminds me, Jamie here just started a fascinating project, spotlight shift. Jamie, tell him about that breakthrough you mentioned, yes and approach. Some key tips. Keep self-deprecation light and brief. Make sure spotlight shifts are genuine and relevant. Use yes and to create conversation flow and not force it. Read the room. Adjust your approach based on the setting and the audience. Practice one technique at a time until it feels more natural. Remember, self-deprecate strategically, build on others' contributions, and share the spotlights generously. These aren't just celebrity tricks, they're proven social skills that work in any setting. Try one this week and watch what happens. Follow for more, like and subscribe. See you guys in the next video.